It's always the same. It's always the same. I take the meeting. Ilana. Okay. Oh, hello. Hey. Okay. Hi, fellows. Hi, everyone. Lokesh, are you guys excited? Hi. Yes, excitement. Thank you. That's very encouraging to have such high energy levels on the last day of the workshop. After going through all the things I go through, hats off. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Okay. Cool. Hello. So, are we ready to start? I think you guys are doing well. If any of you are still trying to work on the presentation, it's okay. Just put it down. That's okay. I mean, that's all you can do in life. And I've seen it's already good stuff. I haven't seen it, but I try not to look at the things till they're ready because it's your project. And I love being surprised. I just love surprising things. That's just me, uh, who I am. I mean, sometimes surprises are not the best of the surprises, but they're still surprising. Uh, so considering that, let's just get back and do our best today to understand how things work. Okay, folks. So, welcome to the final day, and we'll get into the execution part, and we'll understand how things are. We'll go through a quick recap. You know, we talked about what inspires you about to be a Waki person. A lot of you shared with me things about, how fast it grows or how it mimics the native forest and how, it supports biodiversity and how some of you just love forests. And I would like you to remember those things because operations are very heavy stuff. You know, it takes a lot of efforts. So, I mean, smaller projects are still fun. You still do it. It's easy, but more fun is when you're doing large scale project. For example, when you start crossing 20,000, 30,000 saplings, and at that time you have like 50 laborers that you're working with, or if you're having certain times volunteers on board, like hundreds of volunteers, three-fourth earth moving machinery, and gets a little stressful. So it's always good to have a kind of nice diversity in the team. Mix of people who are good with logistics, who are good with project management, and so there are certain people who are looking at the species list. There are certain people who are looking at the project management. Some people, if you have funders on board, and clients, and the clients, diversity helps everyone. Right? We looked into different ways in which, again, all this concept can be implemented. And ecological succession plantation is where, first year you just plant the shrubs all over the place. And second year you plant the pioneer species all over the place. And in second year, but in the third year, let's say. And after 15 years, you'll start planting the climbing species under the shades. Yes, Kagi, you can record it. And everybody else who wishes to record, please go ahead and record. Yeah, so it's also interesting because again you're following very similar pattern, right? Because you're keeping ecological succession in mind, and now because your land has seen those years of work through the pioneer species, because a lot of shrubs have grown over there now. And the best thing about shrubs is that between the first year they start fruiting, a lot of them. and बाकी जो बच्चे हैं within the second year, so definitely they start and they start spreading themselves and occupying more land and covering that land. And shrubs are really good at tilling the land, like opening up the soil. They are really good at fixing nitrogen. A lot of shrubs, if you would have seen in your own species list, a lot of shrubs are very um, nitrogen fixing, and there's a lot of the soil binding activities. And then the pioneer species of the trees will start going up, and they will create a lot of shade. You can even have variable density in this case. Uh, just go with the flow, however you feel the layout is, and then you start planting climate species close to where pioneer species go. So they get a bit of the shades, they get a bit of the support from those pioneer species, and slowly, slowly, they can start growing in the shades. Uh, and that's one way of looking at things. The other way is the framework method, where I talked about how you can use an existing Miyawaki method to then implement a large-scale reforestation project. There's a lot of ways, and I think when people start fighting over Miyawaki method versus the accelerated regeneration method ARN, um, ARM, something about that, accelerated regeneration something. We do a lot of like soil work and preparations like that, which are not directly into plantation, but to enable a lot of water storage in the particular land. So whatever seeds are falling, they have much higher solution. So people have like different methods that they prefer. But I figure that as a forest creator, as a afforestation person, it's always good to have all the different tools under your belt. So you can design a project which is much more holistic when you're doing a project for a very small space and it's an urban forest and things like that. You can go big on Miyawaki when you're doing large scale restoration of the land. You mix Miyawaki with certain other things. I'll also take our time today to show you some of the projects that we have done as part of Dharti Amrit. So you can look into kind of design concepts that have been used that you might find a little more interesting. Yeah. Miyawaki method of dense forest plantation is the method we're following right now, and we try to understand what we're trying to do. And basically, what we're trying over here is to make sure the entire soil, which is there, this is the 1 meter depth of the soil. The entire soil, we're mixing the biomass evenly across, and that's the objective. How you do it, it's up to you. My voice is slightly echoing. Let me see if I have something. Ta-da. Also, I'm kind of like I tend to drift off. And a lot of time when I'm talking, I'm just talking away towards the wall. So happens with lost people. Na, 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 na. Okay, let me just check if the mic is working. Can you guys hear me better now? Is it any different? Can you hear me? Uh, ठीक है. I think somehow the mic is not working still, but I'll try to be close to the laptop itself. That would mean that you might have to stare hard at my face. It's probably fill up the screen, but okay, I think you have to put up with things when you have a class going on. So yes, and in point to think that the voice is drifting off, just let me know. I can just course correct the things. So it just like depends upon how you achieve this thing. So certain times you take out. I promised to send you guys some videos to watch. I forgot. I'll send them again for sure. Or I'll see if we can just play it in this session itself. I mean, it will work out. So how about I'll just play it for you guys now. So we'll get a good good idea about it. The Amrit YouTube. Okay, so we can start with this one. This is a workshop we conducted. So there was a time before, I'm sorry, yeah. So there was a time when we conducted the workshop. Offline workshop was very much in the head. But we also realized that the amount of people we could even work with were very less. So at the time there were just 3 people or 4 people in the workshop. And mostly it was attended by people from abroad because it would get a little expensive for people over here. But can you see the screen? Yes. Okay. So there's not much voices. So if you don't get the music, that's all right. And if it stutters, it's okay. I'll send you the links separately so you can watch them both. There you go. So this is something A first and the thing did it jointly. That's Sunny from A first over there. This is the land preparation part I was talking about, where you can see the first layer has been dug and mixed already in this case. And all this biomass will now be evenly spread and layered across the entire scene. And this is a species survey we did. That was in Jhalna forest, which was the closest one we had in Jaipur at the time. And there was a leopard sighted during the survey. This is a species list that we had come across during that time. Working on the things, back there, us trying to balance our forest. This is how we kept our nursery after we had procured them. And yeah, so you can see, this is the biomass, this is Jeevamrit that we used. This is the machine working. That's how it goes. And you have to see it's like up to 1 meter of depth. Always make sure at least it's up to 1 meter of depth. You have to you can keep a metal rod along with you with a 1 meter marking in it. Right. So this is all the biomass being added from the top. And then it's manually spread by people. So it's smoothly across, because if you don't spread it by hand, then what will happen that certain areas will be left with much higher biomass concentrate and the other areas will have nothing on them. Then we sprinkle Jeevamrit itself. It also gets mixed into the soil, and then we get it mixed properly. So we laid the biomass, and now we're just getting the JCB to keep going in and out and in and out and in and out consistently for a very long time till it's uniformly mixed into the soil. So like this, keep mixing, and then you do the second layer where you put the next layer soil, and then the next layer biomass, and then you spread them evenly, and again get them completely mixed. Yeah, I did the editing for this video, and I think yes, there are certain flaws, but what all a man can do. Again, done mixing by the machine. It's going to go cut. And then we'll get the saplings. Right. So always be very careful when you're moving saplings, because a lot of damage happens in the transport itself. Use chains, use whatever, so there's less movement on physically of stepping around. Yeah. And then this is we'll get into the arrangement manner in a while, how we arrange the saplings. So we take the saplings and we start arranging them on our open land. So our land has been prepared. You can see over here. So this is a planted forest, though it still doesn't have the mulching on it. That's all plantation has been done. And now we are slowly arranging on this patch which is ready for the forest creation. So you go out and you start putting saplings in a particular random manner, and there is a very nice psychotic aspect into how well you can randomize it, like how well you can control the randomization process. So you start putting it and you just start placing it. So right now you're not planting it. Are you making sure it's all 60 centimeter apart? So what we do is we make these little sticks of 60 centimeter. So always while putting a sapling over there, you can just make a check. Okay, it should not be less than 60 centimeter distance. It can be more. That's okay, but should not be less than that. Um, so you always check it with all your nearby saplings that it should be the 60 centimeter distance. Oh, by the way, I'll also give you guys a manual with like written notes with all the steps. All those who make it through all the few days, not to everyone who participates, but all of you who are here, just there are things in store for you. Okay. See, everybody's diligently doing it. And then comes the plantation process. So because you've already worked on the soil underneath, also this sandy soil, so it's much more easier to dig and all. But because you've already, uh, you know, loosened the soil completely, it's very easy, and you only dig up to the size of the sapling, and then you put the sapling inside. So it's very fast, this process of, so you keep checking it's the right size. So there's something wrong with this process, and I can point it out to you later. I didn't think about it back then. Now I know better. So you take off all your saplings and you put it, Jeevamrit, you plant it. And you can see the sapling size are very small, by the way. So Dr. Miyawaki prefers to plant saplings which are between the height of 1 to 2 feet. And personally, we are okay with up to 3 feet, because if you don't have your own nursery, you don't have the very great control over the kind of saplings you can get. But always smaller, the better. But not too small, less than 1 feet is also can get a little challenging.
Why is that? Any reason, Manvendra?
Because the two reasons. One thing is that the smaller saplings actually adapt much better to shock. Also because the roots haven't really spread, because a lot of older saplings will see the roots start getting twining inside and curling inside the, the sapling bag itself, which is not great. And in a lot of cases of pioneer species, what happens is that if they're on the site for too long, they'll go through the floor of the sapling bag, and then the taproot will go into the earth itself. So when those nursery people start taking it out, they usually tear apart the taproot. And the problem with taproot is that once it's gone, it cannot be recovered. I mean, it's like a once in a lifetime thing. The height of the sapling is from root to top. Yeah, it's from the base till, well, I never really paid that much attention, but yeah, I think you can say it's base to the height, ideally. These are not really hard and fast tool, but if you look into it, they should not have a lot of loops. I get it intuitively now. You can consider from the base. Yeah. Oh, when I say base itself, okay, what you can do is you can take it from the base of the soil level till when the soil, so the top of the sapling back to the I think that's also fine. There is a difference. 1 feet, yeah, should be good. And after that is the mulching part. We mulch the entire forest. Here we're using a local millet straw that we found, and we have a shredded version of it, which also we're spreading on the top in this case. Though we don't use the shredded one anymore, because it just decomposes so fast. Though we use these kind of shredded raw material in the soil perforation wala sage, so they make an excellent. So most of the grasses, when say dried, it could be millet straw or anything else. So just shred them like this. They'll actually make a very good air perforation material, which you can then mix into your soil along with compost and water retention. And this is the first watering after everything is done. And that's how they look. A freshly created Miyawaki forest. You can see it's not too high, none of the saplings. Forest gone. You can see it's Omkarji from Dati Amrit, my partner. That's Sunny from E Forest. That's Prabhu from Dati Amrit. And the other workshop participants from that time. And that time it's like Mansingh Nanyala. Because I was working for a different organization back then. And I was assisting then with the video editing. Yeah, but that's me. Good. Did you enjoy the show? You want to see another? Yes. Oh, always hungry for more. Okay, let's do this one. This one is again shot by me. And this I led this project in Chandbazi. But you won't find me because I'm always behind the camera. Okay. All the saplings coming in. This is a nursery. See, this one is not that. Let's see things. It's a team. This is a site in action. This is your this is the wheat husk, the wheat straw in shredded form. So that's we're using a perforation material. So in this case, what we're doing is, because it's a sandy soil and it's in sandy soil and it's in a very pristine area where there's not much compaction that has happened. So we've put a layer of air perforation material. We've put a layer of compost. We did not have water retention material for this project, so we didn't use it. And we've got them spread evenly over the land. And then we got inert moving machinery to start mixing it into the soil properly. So it's all evenly mixed. And this is, once the arrangement is done, you can see that's our excited force over there. And so this is a tub in which we fill Jivamrit with water. So, we can properly like soak in the water for the samplings before they plant it. It actually helps a lot with the survival of the plants. So we put them in, we dip it for a few seconds, and then we take it out. So they're ready to be planted. And then slowly plantation happening. First, the plants were arranged. This we did during the Corona time, so you'll see a lot of people getting masked. And then the mulching is happening. Oh, Corona time was like very highly active time for us because everybody wanted oxygen parks. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Good. Does it bring in a little more familiarity with the process? I think now the presentation will help. So there are a lot more, I think, videos around forestation, which you can probably check online. There's much over there. But I like the way I teach. Cool. Next thing, to the soil. So we have done this, how much it should be done. You guys did as part of your project, no? The biomass which will be required. You wouldn't have done the quantification for the biomass, but which biomass you'll be picking?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
But we've not done it as part of the project.
Okay, that's all right. So that's fine. Good. So nursery preparation, land preparation, we've seen these stages in the video. Basically, I've taken clips in the same video and put it there so I can talk while it's happening. Some more photographs also. This is the arrangement. So this is what we do. So what we do is how we arrange. So you also know the arranged forest like this, right? So how do we achieve this stage? And you can see they're all quite closely done. So the soil preparation, somebody asked me, would the soil rise up a little? And you can see in this case already you can feel it. You know, there is a bit of a height rise, and it does happen, the mound. Yeah. So how do we reach the stage? So what we do is that if you've all done your, species list and you have cut them all into all the 4 categories. So we try to find which category has the highest number. Which one is it over here? Very apparent. Tree. And then subtree, and then canopy, and then the shrub, right? So it's very interesting how like, if we start putting it out and we have to arrange them all, one of the things we want to do is your particular layers should not clash with each other, should not be too close. For example, this should not be just next to this yellow. Like this is okay, green and yellow, because a tree and subtree won't clash, but they'll both be growing into different layers. But we try to avoid as much as we can that the trees and trees stay as far away as it's possible. So it's also not always possible because the tree numbers are so high compared to the others. So there might be times when they come a little close. For example, in this case, yeah, maybe a little close, but that's okay. But the idea is to make sure all your greens are in little far from each other, the best you can, and all your blues are as far away as they're not next to each other, easily spread out, and all your subtrees are as far as each other. So like the lesser the number, the lesser the chance of the conflict. So we have over the time, we just keep changing the way we arrange it, just to try to get a more efficient system and with like higher randomization, because we don't want to plant. There are people who would come up with grids and they'll try to put everything in a grid. And they'll do a like pre-calculation of, okay, on grid 1 will be this tree, 1 canopy, 1 subtree. In grid 2 will be 1 shrub, 1 subtree, 1 canopy. In grid 3, there'll be 1 shrub, 1 subtree, 1 tree, and then they'll come up with the formula. I think you don't really need to do that. I mean, forest is very energy, has very strong conservation principle. We don't waste energy in the forest, and we don't waste energy over here. If it's your hobby, you can do it. I won't stop you, but it's really not required. So the first thing what we do is we'll just take the tree, and we'll take the highest number among the trees also, the majors in the tree, and we'll spread them out. Because initially, the land is empty. So the chance of a tree coming to next to the tree is the least. So there is like a very less conflict in between the 2 layers. So you start spreading out all your greens, which are all your trees, all of the different species that you have. You have your whatever species that you have. Figure out your trees and just spread them all out. Right? And then once that's done, then once it's all over, all the trees are gone, then you take up your next thing is subtree. And you just start giving it out to people to go and spread it everywhere. And then you can get your highest layer, which is canopy or the emergent layer, start spreading it out. And then in the end, you'll start spreading the shrubs. How does that sound? Is it tricky? It's great, no? It's easy. No planning of it, nothing. And just trust the people. It's like what we do is we tell people to if you've seen, it's the labor force or volunteers who go out and place it everywhere, and you just don't control them too much. Every time, for example, you take a batch of 10 people who would be doing that, and you give them all each 10 saplings of a particular species. For example, if you have 23 species of mango, right? So what you'll do is you'll first give them 10, and you'll ask them to spread out over there, and just hold it in your hand and just be there. Okay, and then you just see that they're all good, far away. Then you tell them, okay, put down the sapling, come back, take the next 10. Now go to a different place than the last time. So it's like again distributed. They'll go to different places. Okay, ready, put it down. Next, now you have 3 left. Now just give 3 of those mango to someone. Ask them to just find some place, put it. Good. Now your mango is done. So the next probably in the tree could be, let's say, Dhawad. And so you take the Dhawad and you'll, let's say Dhawad is 18. So you'll first put 10 and you ask them to spread out, put it down. Then this thing. So slowly, one by one species at a time, never going too much, right? Don't tell them to just take this and run and just put it everywhere. You know, your role is only at the point of handing over them and telling them which sapling which will go first. So if you can see, if you remember in the video, all the saplings are properly arranged, right? So even when you're creating you bring your saplings, for example, you might have a large project, but you're doing 100 square meter of a forest at a time, or at the max 200 square meter of forest at a time. So what you'll do is you'll get all the saplings required for that 100 square meter of the land. For example, if you're using 3 density and you have 300 saplings, you'll get them and you'll put them in this order next to the plot. And then, and in the order of the descending order. So the species which are highest in number will form the first row. Then which is in second highest number will form the second row. And you start picking them from here and giving it. Once you put the effort into arranging it properly, then you don't have to put your mind to it, which species has to go next. Right? If you've done this arrangement properly, then at that time when arrangement is happening, things can go very chaotic. So all you're doing is just, okay, take the first line, give it away, take the second line, give it away, take the third line, give it away. Like this, you keep moving down, you finish this line, then you go into the next thing, one line, give it away, second line, give it away, third line, give it away, fourth line, give it away, and give away all these things. And eventually you will see over here. So even here you can see it's all the multi-layered things. Okay, it's not great cartoon, but yeah, that's how this start going. And once this is done, then you start your plantation process. So when you're doing your plantation process, okay, any questions on the arrangement? And if you have better ways to arrange, you can do that. But really, we've tried a lot of things. And we realize that you keep it simpler, the better. Also, if you go on a little higher level where you start looking to associates, and then at that time there's a different method we use to ensure that associated species stay together next to each other or closer to each other. But I would suggest that for your first forest, do not go into that space. I mean, this is good enough. Make your first forest. That's the whole point of it. Yeah.
And Manvel, the distance between the trees, saplings is 60 centimeters.
60 centimeters. Yeah. It can be higher than that. That's okay. And when you're putting down, you're not using the sticks in the beginning itself. For example, when it's all out in the open and you're just putting up the trees, you don't need the sticks back then, because you can just randomly see that they're all kept far and in the distance. It's just when you finish your tree, your sub tree, and you start coming to canopy, is when this distance, the space starts crunching out. And then you hand over the sticks to people and tell them to make sure that, it's within 60 centimeters. I mean, you can do it pehle also, but pehle in the beginning itself, but then there's enough space for people to really go around.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Cool. So when we start the plantation, something we try to do is we ensure that, if this is the soil level over here, right? If this is the soil level, let's say this is the soil level, then your soil level in the sapling itself should match precisely the soil level outside. And the reason is that for any, okay, I'll use a different color. Let's say green. Okay. Correct. For any sapling which is in the poly bag, right? And this is the soil level. So anything which is on the top will be the shoot, and anything which is on the bottom will be the roots. Right. So if you, when you're putting your sapling, onto the ground, you want to make sure that if this is your earth outside, then the earth is in the same height after you have closed the sapling. If you have to put in. So every time you dig your thing, you'll measure it. And if it's too low, for example, in this case, too low, right? So what you'll do is you'll again lift, so you don't open the sapling bag abhi, so you lift your sapling bag up, you put a bit of the soil back inside and then put it down. And you keep checking. If it's too high, then you dig out a bit of the soil till the time your soil level of your sapling bag is equal to your adjacent land. And once that's done, then you just unpack the sapling bag. You don't do it initially, otherwise all the soil will fall apart. Okay, then you'll nicely unpack the sapling bag, put it inside, put 1 liter of water with Jeevamrit if it's possible. Do it, not possible, do it, and then just cover all the soil back. Done. Good. Questions? Simple it is. There are a few questions that people usually have, like, do we break the soil and put it inside? No, please don't do that. Just put it as it is, because we want like least shock given to the roots as possible. So as much as is possible, just put it in the same shape after removing the polybag. That's important. What else? Yeah. Can you put the sapling inside with the plastic? No, please don't do that. What should the distance between the saplings be? 60 centimeters. Just write it down so it's easy. Limiting 60 centimeter minimum. Right. Some of you will think it's too crowded. Then remember, like if you can start visualizing already, our forest is actually growing in terms of some of them are shrubs. So if you look at just the trees, they are not really that much close to each other. They have much higher distance. If you look at some trees, they're not growing next to each other. They have higher distance. If you look at shrubs, they're not growing much to each other. They have much higher distances. So because your forest is growing at different layers, that's why there is not that much competition. So anybody who says, oh no, it's a competition that makes the saplings grow very fast in Miyawaki, that's actually not true. Because in the name of competition, people will just plant pioneer species all across, and soon we'll have your forest falling apart. You'll literally have like trees falling apart. Or if you put a lot of exotic over there, you will have your trees falling apart. And that you won't realize in the first 3 years. That you'll realize it if your forest is not balanced. You'll realize it 5 years after plantation. And then you'll be like, oh my God, it's just too late. And you'll feel bad about certain things, but it's okay. You learn. You move ahead. And also because you have a mix of pioneer and climate species. So even if all the trees over here that you see, only 50% of them would grow up very fast and take over a particular layer. And slowly, your next 50% of the climate species will also grow up. So it's temporally and spatially and vertically and horizontally. In all this way, the forest is opening up like a flower. How from a bird, it's like bird is just a very small thing, but it contains the entire flower. And then it opens up like this over a different point of time, and your things, the bloom is happening at different stages, and that's how the forest is going to open up for you. So there is element of competition, but one of the main reason why my Miyawaki forest goes so fast is the cooperation, because you have able to establish a community where a lot of climatic species are there, and climatic species grow in dense areas supporting each other's growth. And that's a critical part. So if somebody is telling you it's just the competition that's making them grow fast, teach them about ecological succession, tell them things, about climatic species, and ask them to include in their forest climatic species, because that's a very key element. But also know that usually they're expensive and they're much more hard to find. There are very few, like forest department nurseries, hardly, like one nursery in the entire state will contain climax species as such, because they work with more with pitting method, where they like, they'll randomly plant species in large distances after making the pits, and in the pits only pioneers can survive, because climax species need a community, and they need the forest soil to be created as such and get established.
So, Manvendra, two questions. One, where do you get your climax species? And two, is there a list that is available for climax species in case, say, I want to start a nursery at home?
Actually, there is nothing out there. I mean, the world hasn't even caught up to the climate species. Most of the people who are planting Miyawaki forests haven't caught up to climate species. So very few people who are doing it. There are very few nurseries, and they're very, very, very hard to find. Try to find those nurseries. Go ahead. You really, really can't find it, reach out to me. I might be able to point towards something, but I would still suggest you to go ahead and try, because the more you talk to your own nurseries and tell them that you need these species, the more interested they will be, because they'll see a demand coming up slowly for those species. And even if you don't really need specialized species, if you can come up with your species list, you give those lists to a nursery well in advance, they will prepare the saplings for you. And that's one of the best ways to do it. So a lot of our projects, that's what we do. We find different nurseries, and we first make a list of all the saplings we want to plant, and then we go to them. If we have enough project time, lead time that we have, and that's something we keep asking our clients for, just give us enough lead time to plant. So if that is there, we can just give it to them. They'll make it for us and keep it ready, and then we plant. Yeah.
Will you be able to share the climax species that whatever you have found in terms of, the names?
Yeah, it differs for different region, but
It's okay. Because
Uh-huh.
Bhimtal being a place where, you
Perfect.
can grow lots of plants, I can always start a nursery of my own there
That's
for
perfect.
climax.
So what you do is you undertake your research and you come back with me or the list. One thing, I haven't done a survey for Bhimtal yet. And Bhimtal is very uniquely situated, where it's not very high altitude with the oak broadleaf forest system. And it's actually not the plains also. So it's the foothills, and it's a very unique system. So that's something that can be explored.
No, I'm not saying, no, Manvendra, I'm not saying for Bhimtal area. I'm saying if you have a list for throughout India, what are the climax species? Achha, wherever you have planted, you don't have a list of climax species that you planted?
So wherever I have planted, we've done projects, but what we're also saying that every project has a very unique list of plants. We've done a sapling list. And if you want me to give you the sapling list, I will not hand it to you, but I would expect you to do your own research and, you come up with me, you need help with it, I will help you. I mean, the idea behind this is because there are two things, right? One thing is that for me, the idea of everyone learning how to come up with their own list is important, because I want this knowledge to grow as an open source information over a piece of time. But if we have actually put like days and days in research and the manpower over there, that's also something that, I would like, I would say that it's our property, because it has come through a lot of sweat and hard work. And that's something which, puts us apart as a planting company, as a professional plantation company, compared to a lot of people out there who really, really plant stupid things. So if you are there wanting to do it, I'll be very happy to guide you through it. I'll tell you what's wrong, how to improve it better, and I'll help you through it. Because I would like you, more and more people, to be able to create their own sapling list. But I'm not going to, I'm very against, I would say, spoon feeding in a way, but it's a very harsh word. But I'll not pass on a sapling list. That's on me.
Okay.
Yeah. Work on it. Reach out to me. I'll be very happy to mentor and lead you on it. So that's the thing. And find more people, because you've all getting a taste of how to come up with those lists. Put your efforts on it. Find partners. Work on those things. Come up with lists. You can have it vetted with me, and I'll be very happy to give you that answer.
Sure,
Perfect.
thanks.
Thank you. Well, I really hope that one fine day I'll be able to work on an open source project which is exclusively dedicated to research, where we can get it through there. But I'm not there yet, probably in next 2-3 years. And whenever I do, one thing I'm very sure that I'll send a shout out to all the people who have been ever part of any of the Miyake workshop with me. So then we can start actually building up an open source knowledge of species across India and probably even across the world, and even how best to be able to plant it. That is a possibility. And if I can never get the funds for it, if I can get the project sanction, I would be happy to work on it. Yeah. So this is it. And then you hold the plant, because whenever you want to plant the sapling, you always make sure that your saplings are standing straight, right? You don't want your sapling to be like this, a little teda once you're planting, because then it will actually suffer a bit of a disadvantage. It has to straighten itself up a little because its roots are also, trained for gravity to go down, and all of a sudden they get a little tilted. So it's not much of a difference, but sometimes when the competition is high, in the initial phase, every sapling, what we want to do is for them to have the best start. So just hold them when you're watering them and when you're putting the soil back. So your sapling, when you plant it, grows tall and straight and proud. So it can just keep going straight, because as we remember, in this case, all the saplings will first grow tall and thin because they all want to compete for the sun. And once they've reached a very mature point, will they start putting weight and start thickening out. So you have to help them go up to the top of the things. Yeah. So once it's all done, the next step is to give them support. So on the reason why we are also doing it over here is that, because we have created a space for very high competition as such also, we don't want saplings to grow teda, and go into each other, because it just, we're trying to replicate a climax species, right? Climax forest, that to the densest part of the forest. In the climax forest, everything goes straight up. So to just simulate the same thing here for us, we will put support sticks next to all the saplings and then tie them up nicely to the sticks, so they stay straight. And this is something you'll have to keep adjusting over the first year. Like every month, you'll have to like open some of them and like retie some of them, open some of them and retie some of them. Yeah, and this is how you make it. Then the mulching starts. So when you're doing the mulch, it's very interesting. What you have to do is, um, hmm, so in this case, you would see we actually done a double layered mulch. So the first layer, which is in the back, is a leaf layer. So first we put a leaf layer, which is even here also. You can see the leaf layer over here. So in the entire place, we did a leaf layer, and then we did another round of grass mulch, of a paddy straw mulch on top of it. So it helps with a lot of things. Like if you have a leaf layer, it's just very quickly generates your humus layer for the forest, which is really good for water retention absorption. It provides a lot of food for insects. You just keep eating, and then it helps forest get revitalized very fast. But then also the downside of leafy mulch is that it's very it decomposes very fast. So you'll have to keep putting it back up and again. If you have a good amount of leaves around, as long as they're not, which one? I remember I said a few species to avoid. Someone can remember. Neem, avoid neem. Right. Avoid Clearicidia, avoid eucalyptus. So these are some of the species. And you can actually see, it could be like there are other species also which could have particular interference, but these are the things which are much more, avoid Clearicidia leaves. These are the things that I can commonly think of. As long as you don't put these leaves, it's good. Mango leaves are good. Try to make it as much diverse as you can. If in that diversity there's a bit of neem leaf coming, that's okay. But it should not be exclusively neem leaves. That's the thing. So once you've done it, then we start doing the next layer of paddy straw. because these stay much longer and provide a mulch support. So this is, in this case, that's how the double layering works. And also when we are doing this paddy straw mulch, make sure you always go in a very organized manner. You put your paddy straws, you start with one corner and you start lining up. People will want to come, like that's how, if you can see in the old videos, we were just dumping mulch and just spreading it across. But that mulch was also cut very small. So it's easier for them to just mix into the soil. If you can do that, that's great. But the problem with smaller cuts is also that they decompose much faster. So it will actually raise your project cost a little more. Yeah. So if you are using a longer mulch, like the paddy mulch, what we do is you start spreading them out like this, and you go for a full one layer. And then once your full one line is complete, then you put the second line overlapping the first one. Right. So if I'm just drawing it over here, that if this is your land, first you will do a first line of paddy straw mulching. Okay. When you do the second line of mulching, you keep 1/3 from here and 2/3, right? 1/3 of overlap on the next layer, and then that's your second thing. And when you're doing your third layer, you just again put 1/3 of overlap and put 2/3 over here. That's it. Done. Right? So you keep up that rhythm. It does a couple of things. One thing is that in the end, if you look it from the sideways, if you look it from this direction, you'll see that your mulch is something like this. This is your first layer of mulch. The second layer of mulch is a little much like this, climbing over the first layer. So it's a little teda, right? And then you have a third layer of mulch, which is climbing on top of this, right? And then your fourth layer of mulch, which is climbing up like this. Yeah? So it does a couple of things. One thing, it just actually creates a kind of interlocking, where your mulch is not blown away with wind. This doesn't go all hawa se itna hawa ka jhoka chala chalega. Or if there's a very strong water current coming through, this will stay. The second thing what it does is when the water finally falls, the rainwater falls, then all your water falls and rolls inside very gently. Falls, rolls inside, falls, rolls inside, and it creates a very gentle moving of water inside, which really helps. So there's a very little fine tuning that you do when you're working, just to get like a little better result. But even if you can't remember these things, it's okay. Just keep it mulch is the uniform rule. Good. And also if you are working on a slope, and there are people over here who will be working on the slope, then if you can see, here are drawings. If you can, if this is a hill, okay, this is too steep a hill. No. So this is the hill. Then what we do is we make sure that your mulches are in direction which is, along the slope. This is how you're mulching, and not in line with the slope. Because if you do in line with it, then the water that's falling down, there's additionally slope, and on top of it, like roll up much faster. You don't want water to roll much fast, but you want it to slow down. So what happens is that there is already a slope, but then there's a counter slope here, so somehow it gets inside. I mean, if you're doing it, I'll be very happy to get on video call and show you how to do it. But I think some of you will get it. If you don't get it, it's okay. Good. Could you please show an example of along the slope mulching? I'll pick out a photograph from somewhere. I'll see. There would be. We have done project near Ranikhet. I'll share that with you. I don't have it in this laptop that I'm using, but I'll share it with you from my laptop. Put in the group. Cool. And then once it's done, then you do the watering. Catch. First day, just give them enough water because your mulch soaks up the first water a lot. Okay. So if you just give them little water the first day, then sometimes what happens is that is that just the mulch has soaked up the water, but the soil is still dry, and you want everything to like the water to seep inside. So as a general thumb rule, we say that for every 100 square meter, give them at least 15 to 20 minutes of water, and that's okay. Just a second. Okay. If you look into the liters, we'll suggest anywhere between 500 to 1,000 liters of water for the first plantation per 100 square meter. But if you look into the time, at least 15 minutes of watering, 15 to 20 minutes. And just go inside, move your mulch personally and just touch the soil underneath. Is it damp? Because it has to be damp. If it's not damp, keep watering. And that's the best check. That's it. Is like forget about the liters and all. Liters are important when you're planning. When you're planting, just keep moving the mulch aside and check properly uniformly throughout it's damp. And it's very interesting because one thumb rule about watering is that you don't want the soil drenched. You just want it damp. Right? Nami honi chahiye. Gila nahi hona chahiye. Um, so because if it's just too much water, then also it starts actually like a lot of forests have issue with overwatering and not with underwatering. And yeah, once your project starts, if you've gotten the rain, then it will give you a couple of month or 2 months. If you're planning just before the monsoon, then make sure you're watering every day till the time rain comes, and then you just keep checking it, and you just keep giving it enough water that it needs to sustain itself. Overwatering is a thing that a lot of people do. For example, we have predominantly deciduous forest, but some of the people who plant with a lot of pioneer species, and the clients sometimes can't really take it that your forest is looking bare in the summers, in that February, March all the time. So they'll keep watering it, and keep watering it will actually create a very evergreen wala effect where there's a lot of water in abundance, so the plants don't shed their leaves and they retain their leaves. So it's like by overwatering them throughout the summertime, we are creating an artificial rainforest kind of environment, which is green, but it's not the real forest. These are deciduous forests. They will drop leaves in the summers, and there will be very few of them which still retain their leaves during this time. So do not fall into the trap. Just give them enough water that it just stays damp, right? Just enough water once in a while, once a week, probably once in 2 weeks. If you're in the first year, do not overwater, and that's something which is my opinion. Yeah, if you want to like please someone, you can keep overwatering it, but then your saplings will grow up in the first 2 years while you're still watering them with the idea that they're growing in a rainforest kind of evergreen environment. But once you stop giving them water, they'll be like surprised and they'll be like keep guzzling water if you keep giving them. Water is sacred. It's important. So don't overwater is something I would always say. Yeah, that helps. Mm. Tiring, 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 tiring. Tiring, 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 tiring. Tiring, 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 tiring. So this is something of a project we've done again, and that's how it looks. To get you an idea of how Miyawaki Forest looks after 3 years. That's how we planted, and that's how it looks. This is one in Jaipur. Pretty. And then maintenance time. Very good. I usually have these 10 commandments that I like to say to people. And, we'll come back to it after I do my forest thing. Just give me a moment. I'll show you my um, Forest gas light. How is it coming along so far? Are you getting the hang of execution? What happens? How you do it? Is it simple? Because execution is not really. Once you get the hang of it, it's very easy to do it, because it's just like, more of how well you can manage your people on the ground, how well you can manage your volunteers on the ground. It's mostly topic of that. And as long as you're able to maintain the quality control in every stage, when it's doing the soil plantation, is just, while the things are very simple, you're just to be able to keep up the calculation ki theek hai, कि इतने में इतना माल जाना चाहिए, 100 square meter based upon, per square meter calculation that you've done of the biomass, how much material should go in 100 square meter, and you put it over there and you mix it into the ground and everything. And then when you're planting, make sure that every step is being followed. So you have to keep, if you're working with laborers or volunteers, you have to keep telling them, ki, boss, this is, you have to keep correcting them. Ki, this is something that's not happening right. This is how you have to better plant it. This is something else you have to do. So, yeah. So I have a little bit of a maintenance checklist that I would like to take you guys through. Just Yeah, I'm just using a different laptop today, and I don't have some of the files in this laptop. I'll just download it because I have it all in the cloud, so that's not a big deal. Yeah. But till then, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So, have you ever thought of, um, I mean, adding maybe a water body in a forest or something different than what you have seen what a Miyawaki forest is, or something out of the design, I mean, that you have thought of?
Cool. So I can show you something which is very interesting. I'll show you a presentation of ours, of some of the designs that we've done. And I'll just come back to that question after the maintenance checklist. So if you can just keep that in your mind, and you bring it up again once once this is done. Will that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I love this world. I mean, like, digital is not the thing, but it just makes life convenient sometimes. Okay, I got the thing. Yes, here we go. I think it was a nice break. For mountainous region where there are uh, where where there are narrow terraces, will digging 1 meter destabilize the slope? Yeah, so what we do is that we perform a very different maneuver for forest areas. and I'll show you that also in some of the things. Or if I can, I'll just if you can remind me, I'll send it in the WhatsApp group once this workshop is over. So I'll have to look up for that. But it's very interesting how it's done, and we did it for one of our projects that worked very well. Okay. So this is the maintenance instruction, and I'll give credits to AFirst over here because they are the ones who came up with it, and we love to follow it. Yeah, so if you can see it, first is your watering. Yeah, first is the watering, and it's do not use water cannon. Please do not use. It will come down upon the plants with such force as a vengeance of God has fallen upon it. Please don't do that. It destabilizes soil a little. It will start getting holes in it because the soil was very, it starts compacting the soil, starts moving the mulch. It bends the plants. Never use it, and never take this also. We're watering without a shower. Just go ahead and going inside. First thing is, do not ever step inside a forest while it's wet. If you can, like, unless it's a very big emergency, if you can avoid it, don't ever, because when the soil is wet, it compresses actually much more. While when it's dry, it doesn't compress that much. So you always water from the outside, and you always water it with a shower head. So whatever system you have, you can put your sprinklers, you can put anything else you want, but make sure nobody's going inside the forest. It's all watering is done completely out from the outside, and you're using a shower head. And what we do is that if we are, for some reason, if we're creating, usually, it's 3 meter, like even is 3 meter from this side and 3 meter from the other side are much more easier to access for watering. So if we have forest which is very wide stretch, then we create a maintenance lane in the middle of 1 meter. So if it's a 12-meter forest, then we'll keep like 6 meter, then 1 meter of maintenance lane, and then another 6 meters. So what happens is that then the watering person moves through that lane and then waters on both the sides. And eventually, after your first year, the forest will take over to that maintenance part also. So you don't really have to worry about it. Yeah. Cool. So that's the water requirement that's suggested by them. It's 5 liters per square meters per day. So depending upon it, you can calculate and come up with it. De-weeding is the biggest maintenance task. Never ever let this happen to your forest. Grasses are very aggressive. What they do is, a lot of grasses, they'll try to strangulate, like really strangulate, like go into the roots and try to capture it. Young saplings, to avoid them from growing up, because if they can kill them young, the grasses can keep up their land. Like, okay, because if these saplings start growing up and there's a dense forest, then grasses will die out. So there is a competition over there between the different succession spaces. So if you ask me, is there no space for grasslands? Oh yeah, but not. Miyawaki method is designed to replicate the densest part of the forest. If you want grasses, uh, plant them outside, keep them separate, but not inside the forest. Otherwise, they will really, really kill your plants. So de-weeding, especially just before the monsoon, because if you haven't de-weeded before the monsoon, one shower, they will capture growth and will be much more harder to manage. And then once before monsoon, once if possible during the monsoon, and once the monsoon is over. Once the monsoon is over and you've done the de-weeding, it will give you a break, because nothing new will come up for a long time. So you just keep an eye out it, like have someone regularly deployed for maintenance. You can keep de-weeding things as they come. But if you let things go out of hand, your forest will go out of hand. And I've seen the effect of it. I've lost forests because we didn't realize it at one site. The client said that they look after the forest. And normally when we work on a project now, we always do it with an engagement of at least 2 years with the client. That we look after the maintenance, we'll put our own people there, we look after the forest, and we'll give you once it's just ready, and almost indestructible unless some big calamity comes over there. So that's something we started doing now, because they didn't care. The mulch disappeared, probably the cow came and ate it or just decomposed over there, and they did not bother to remulch it. And the weeds came up and they started strangulating the forest, and half the forest died in it. Yeah. So it also depends which kind of grasses that you have. Dubs is one of the most notorious ones, and then there are a lot of aggressive species. Lantana starts popping up in the forest, and then they become very hard to manage. Same thing happens with Dupetorium. Yeah. So you keep it clean, keep up the deweeding exercise while you can. It's very simple. Just keep plucking it, keep plucking it, keep plucking it. If you have a good enough mulch layer, you can shake it, and like, a lot of people can leave it on the top. But I've also seen that in certain cases where people are not careful and they've left the grass, with soil in its roots just like that, and a rain comes, it just starts going up again. So if you're in the monsoon time, then I would suggest you take out the weed and just keep it separately and discard it somewhere, or make it a heap and make a compost out of it. It's up to you. But if it's non-monsoon time, then you can just like pluck it. It's not going to rain. Pluck it and just leave the grasses on just top of your mulch, and they'll just become part of the entire system. That's okay, right? So this is post-evading, like how it should look. It should always look like there's nothing on the ground, because you only want shrubs layer over here to be growing at this stage, because we're mimicking a dense part of the forest. If you're working with a 7-layer system, then your 7th layer will also be, which is the understory, will also be here itself. So that's okay, but no grasses, please. And grasses mean bamboo. Bamboos are stick, no bamboos, no climbers, no creepers. Climbers and creepers play a big part in really getting down the old forest species and bringing them down. So that's okay. I don't mind. At a stage when the forest has already established itself for 10-20 years. But at this stage, when they're all young, we don't plant climbers, we don't plant creepers, and we don't plant grasses, and especially not bamboo. Okay, never ever. Dr. Miyawaki will turn in his grave if you plant a bamboo plant in your Miyawaki forest. So ensure the plants are not in the stress. So a lot of time, if your sapling is too small, in certain cases, this is too small. They should not have planted it. But certain times, these rare climax species, you just, they grow up in height of just this much. They're just a few in 2 inches and 3 inches over a year or 2 years. So you do what you can. So you just be very careful when you're planting them. Make sure that they don't get buried under the mulch. They have enough space to be able to get some sunlight, right? And you keep it there, and then it should always be emerging, the stick out of the shoot should always be emerging out of the mulch, like in this case, right? Then we get into the how you tie it, right? So a lot of time people take the plant and tie it to the tree, to the bamboo itself. I'll just do a bit of drawing, which I love, which you would have realized by now. If this is the bamboo, right, and this is the plant, okay. So what people do is they'll make a bamboo string, they'll twirl it around the plant, they'll take it around this, they'll tighten it here and tie a knot. Please don't do that. They'll tighten it very close, like bring it very close and tie it into it. Don't do that. That's very, very bad for the plant, because they'll start choking at this point. Yeah. Other times they use plastic thread to do it. Please don't do that, because plastic thread doesn't decompose. At least if you use jute strings, they'll decompose at certain point and fall off, and they're not required. In this case, you can see the plant was tied completely to the bamboo support stick. And as it grew, this created a choking point, which is a place, invitation for diseases and aggressive insects to attack and take the plant down. You don't want that to happen, right? You do it in this very interesting way. So you can, first thing is you tie a knot on the stick itself, right? So you're not tying a knot on the plant, but you just tie it on the stick. And then once you've done it, you've tied it and you have made a knot over here, and you completely like because it should not be moving up and down. It should be very firm over there. And then you take your thread around it, you bring it there, and then you tie it khali, just like that over here properly. So you bring it closer as you can. Yeah, as much as you need, and you just tie it over here. So then your movement of the sapling itself should be free. That, it should not be like held very strongly. It can move anywhere inside it. So it's just supporting it. And you always, if this is your sapling and somehow if it's doing this side, then would you plant support stick on the left side or the right side?
Can you repeat, please?
So if this is your sapling, and it's bending a little on your right, so would you plant the support stick on the left or the right?
On the right.
On the left. Over here, your bamboo will go. And then you will tie your things over here. You will just pull in your thread over here and try to pull the plant closer. So it just reaches this straight height. And once it reaches that thing, then you tie your knot over here and let it be. So it's always going forward. So the idea support sticks just to keep them from, and they all should be standing tall. So a lot of time when you're working with people, they will make that mistake and they'll plant it at random direction. Get it fix itself. And these direction might also change after a couple of months. You might realize, oh, now the plant started bending in this direction. So what you do is you take the support strip out and then you plant it on this side. And every time you're planting your saplings, make sure you always tell them, because if you tell them 3 inches ka gap rakna, it won't work. So always tell them it should be a hand width distance between, if this is the sapling, and this is the bamboo. There should be no 1 hand width distance. When I say 1 hand width, it's this much, always between it. Because if you try to put it closer, it will actually skewer into the sapling. If you remember, your sapling bags were this big, right? And this is the plant. So if you put the bamboo very close to it, and your roots have all developed over here for this plant. So when people plant it very close, it will go into the root system and affect it over there. So you have to keep that much distance. So 1 hand is usually safe if you're working with very big sapling bags, which I prefer not. Like, please don't do that. If you can avoid it, use smaller ones and use younger plants. Then keep that much distance apart. But normally a hand's width is good enough. Then, yeah, no littering, no parting, no beer cans, nothing. Keep your forest clean. Ta-da! Nice and pretty. Yes, water should not get accumulated at any point of time. If you start seeing that there is water accumulation that has started happening, create this kind of irrigation channels, drainage channels, which are dug and kept down so the water can all drain out. You don't want to collect water inside the forest because that would lead to stagnation. Remember, overwatering is the problem. Underwatering is, unless you're like letting them dry out, but just safer on the side. And plants will, like, if you're working in the mountains, then, in the winters, because the cold, they will drop the leaves because we have deciduous forest. And if you're working in the plains and the south, because of the water stress, the plants will shed their leaves, but eventually they'll all pick up the ground again. So in our 30th YouTube page, which I was showing, there was one YouTube about Chanbaji forest, where the forest was so dead in March and April because it was deciduous time, and the clients were going crazy. 3 months we kept telling them, wait, let the monsoon come, let the monsoon come, and they were going crazy. And that happens, and that's all right because we have seen it, they haven't. And once the monsoon came, things were like flourishing over there. So if you can get a chance to see that video, do that. That's great. Never use pesticides, herbicides, or inorganic. It doesn't matter using organic pesticides or inorganic pesticides because you're creating an ecosystem. It's not just the plants that you're planting. You're creating a place for the insects and other things to also come. And they'll come and eat your plants a little bit, but the forest will fight back and it will call upon the predators, and soon the balance will be established. Just make sure your forest is always mulched. That's the best thing you can do about, controlling pests going out quickly. And certain time, certain insects, they actually are taking down one particular species. And that is the case, then, it's time to also consider whether that species really, really belongs over there if it's not able to defend itself completely. Look into it as one check. Number two, you try to remember if it came in good health. And number three, if all of those things, then it's just the way of the forest and you have to accept it. That certain species are vanishing and they're dying. And it's very okay for insects to come and eat part of the plants. And certain times you'll see much more eat and phase. That's all right. Don't worry about it. This is, yeah, see, here the mulch is gone and this is the bare soil. Don't let it happen. It will be ruin of your forest. Ruin. Yes, I can never put enough thing about keeping the forest mulched. This is how you keep it mulched. Always. So over here you can see the layers that I was talking about, right? So this one is now being overlapped by the next one. It's very nicely interlocked. And even here you can see, when the grass has been put so nicely, they've been put next to each other. So it actually closes all the gaps. So there's no sunlight going in anywhere. Because the forest floor doesn't need the soil. Certain times, certain species which grow very, very fast, very, very tall, you might need to get the higher bamboo. So we try to get a 6 feet bamboo as a standard for everything. Because shorter bamboos, you feel that, okay, right now your saplings are so small, but बच्चे कब बड़े हो जाते हैं पता नहीं चलता. Sometimes, certain pioneer species, they just sprout up so high in the first monsoon itself. Then they'll start bending down. So we just try to keep a 6 feet bamboo, as a standard across the forest. So we can just keep, bringing them up closer as we can. The other thing we also do is, I'll show you. So always make sure that, you're not, when you're moving around the water irrigation, when you're turning corners, the pipes start, climbing over to the forest and plants start coming down. It happens. Don't do that. Please don't do that. This is the maintenance pathway I was talking about, remember? So if your forest starts getting too wide, put a maintenance pathway, a short one, which you'll use right now when you're maintaining for watering on the both sides. But eventually within first year, it will be inaccessible. You won't be able to go inside. And that's fine. And what they've done is also they put on this corner, they put these 2 bamboo sticks. So even if someone is coming from this side and turning around over here, so when they're pulling the pipe, all the force is being taken by these bamboo corner sticks, and the pipe is not getting into the forest. So you can put it as a pillions and the guards. Do not do this. I've seen it in so many projects. I recently visited a project in Ahmedabad, and they had done this, and I was crying. Please do not do that. So a lot of people in your project will come up, like they would always be these local experts who know what they're doing, but trust me, they don't know what they're doing. And they'll be like, nahi, inko pani chahiye hota hai, so we make these things and we'll keep it in there. Don't do that. They don't want more water. They'll get enough water, and because there's microbiology in the soil, lot of water will be retained when the water falls. And if the forest is very well mulched, then a lot of the water will go inside the soil, and that will be captured by biology. But if you don't mulch your soil, forest soil, and you just make these kind of things, the water stays for much longer time and stagnates the biological entities, and it stagnates the root and doesn't do anyone good. Don't do this. Don't make the buns. Don't go around lopping. Certain time with like, arey nahi, certain gardeners. So it's a constant fight with the local gardeners if you're making it in a public space or if you're working with the forest department. But that happens, because they have certain way of doing things that no, you have to keep lopping these things. But no, you're trying to create a dense environment where, they will grow tall and thin just because it's a dense environment. Because a lot of these species, if they grow out in the open, if you grow them in much more open spaces, they'll start going left, right, and center. And what the gardeners do is that they keep lopping the sides. So only the main branch is going up to keep it straight. But in this system, you really don't have to do that. So avoid. Yeah. Never. So if you were very interesting, we were doing a project near Thane. So it was being done by one of my ex-student, and I was there. And it was done in a public park, and where they planted, all the leaves will start falling eventually. So it's like automatic mulching that happens. After the first day, the leaves are just falling. And the local gardeners come because they're so trained to remove the leaves and they see it. They'll come, they'll try to brush them all out of the forest and then set it to fire. And please. This is what it should look like with all the mulches dying. Eventually, your bamboo sticks will also start falling down. And certain plants will start dropping their side branches, their lower side branches, and they'll also start accumulating, which will give a big boost to the fungi system. So yeah, this is how it should look, like a forest floor. And that's it. Questions? Yeah, is it clear? The maintenance is not that hard, right? So while planting, we first mulch the soil and then make space for saplings? No, first we plant the saplings and then we start mulching the soil. In certain cases, we actually tried mulching first and then putting the sapling, but it actually how well effectively it can work out would depend upon a lot of circumstances, about the mulch quality, about the kind of soil that you have. It gets very tricky. So prefer to always plant first and then mulch. After how many days can we enter the forest? So you can enter the forest, that's okay. It's just that don't do it just immediately after watering. Give a little gap. Yeah, if you want to enter. But after 1 year, I think you won't be able to enter the forest because they're so dense. Yeah, it will be tough. Hello, Katarana, Miragana, Rana, hello, Katarana. So I'll show you, there was a question around design and how do they look when they mature. There is okay, we can take a look at this one. And there's so many PPTs. One keeps making. Let's download it. Chill day, no? Today can plant my climbers in the mature Miyake. You won't even have to plant climbers in mature Miyake, but they'll come. Climbers are amazing. They usually travel with the help of the birds. So yeah. If you want, you can, but you really wouldn't have to. But you can introduce it. When I say mature Miyake forest, I would say like 10 years on back. Should you let the dried leaves just the way it's on the? Yes, just like there's like zero maintenance. Once the dried leaves have come up, started falling, then you won't even want to remulch. They also take care of the weeds because already after the first year, the forest becomes so dense and it blocks out all the sunlight that a lot of those things usually don't happen. Yeah. I'll show you. This is one of our presentation, how to make it full screen. I'll try something. Okay. I think fine. You guys can see it clear enough. Cool. Yes. Good. Control L. Thanks. So this is one of the case where there was a water body that goes really, really well. So this is the Miyawaki forest. It's a 2-3 year old Miyawaki forest in the background, and then there is a water body just in front of it. And amazing forest, amazing water, good stuff. It's pretty. You can mix, and that's what I say, that the beauty of Miyawaki forest, they can use it as a tool, as an element, as part of the things. And then there are grasses around over there which have been planted. There have been like shrublands. You can see even the buffer edges have been planted a lot with aquatic species over there, which are very happily growing along the forest edge. So how well then you take this thing into implementation is totally up to you as a skill. So that's just us. We've done a lot of forests across India, and in Ethiopia we've done a forest. Covered almost everywhere. That's Miyawaki, Dr. Miyawaki, and makes amazing forests, natural, multi-layered, denser. We try to get Shinrin Yoku principles into the design things that we do. So there's the same forest that I showed you earlier from the top view. That's how it looks like. It's not. It's amazing. It's pretty. It's cool. Yeah. And this is another forest we did in Kanpur. Quite pretty forest. So again, your central Indian forest can go really, really tall, and sometimes they call the forest of the giants. So the speed, their height and their growth rate will vary across places. This is another one. So we also try to design, and that's something which you guys can look into when you're doing a Miyagi forest. How well you can design your forest and implement it as part of things. Then this is a hill project that we've done with a lot of Miyawaki forest here, 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 going here, and then that's going over there. This is our Ethiopian forest that we did, which I talked about. There was this challenge that they had was that there's this outer ring road, and this is the biggest hospital in Ethiopia coming up on this side. So we wanted to do something that could create a buffer, block the noise and the pollution that's coming. Also, at the same time, engage with people. So there are like a lot of pathways in the middle. They're like setting spaces. So just kind of the design that's there. And this is the same thing after 1 year of plantation. Will the aquatic plants and grasses not harm the forest near point? No, no, the forest gets very resilient. Um, um, Once it gets established, then it's also for the first year. So those things were done after the forest was done. Aquatic plants really don't harm that much. That's fine. Grasses can become a bit of challenge, but then those were also done after the first year of the forest. But if you have people who are actually managing and maintaining the thing properly, I think it could be managed. Just that avoid having the grasses grow in that. What do leeches suggest about the forest health? Leeches suggest about the forest health. Yeah, that means it's good. That means there's a lot of moisture in the soil. And that's what leeches need. They need moisture. They need running streams. They need those kind of things. So a leech is a very good indication of a healthy forest, and that's something you'll see over the period of time that wherever you made a Miyake forest. So two of our clients have reported, like one reported that a bore well just came back to life completely, which is abandoned. There was no water in it, and now they're using it as an active thing. So it does help pull up the water table a lot. And then there was another project we did near Rani Khet where we did a forest, and you know, leeches also indicate the presence of animals. Yeah, thank you. That means your forest has places for animals to walk and for hunt and to be there. It also indicates presence of people. Because the amount of leech bites I've gotten, it's insane, but that's okay. Yeah. So yeah. So the other project we did, there was a Nala, there was a spring over there, and they did not realize it because it was just abandoned and dry. And when the water started flowing through it on the second year of the forest, it just would not stop. They had to create a separate passage of it. That's the amount of water the forest can store. The forest also have earth form. Do they help? Like they help? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The forest also have earth forms. They have everything. They have a lot more things beyond the earth forms also. The earth forms are also very resilient and very strong. Yeah. So these are like a few more design principles that we do where we make it a much more engaging people for the forest. So it just depends how you use it. It's a tool. How you integrate it into your rest of the things and make some amazing stuff. And the best thing is that a lot of flowers just start coming up within the first year itself. A lot of fruits start coming up in the first year itself, and a lot of these flowers are all from the within 1 year of forest creation. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. More questions, and then we'll move on to the presentations. We did it. I think it's a great thing. You guys have think it's yeah, correct. I'll check. That's a good question, Gargi. Must have come from an existing tree and must have come in the presentation. I'll take a look into that. Thanks for pointing that out. Yes. The soil is small racks, do they need to be removed? Not really. There are boulders sometimes, large boulders, we plant around it, and sometimes we just, if the smaller rocks, we just break it with the excavator, and it's okay. And that particular patch, the forest might start a little slow and then it'll go up, but we don't really have to remove a lot of things. Okay. Out of context question, but can anyone really create a forest, or is there such a thing as green thumb or natural that create things observe nature in the first place? Let's try. Try making a first forest, you'll find your answer. Yeah. Good. Shall we start with the presentations? I know there would be questions that will keep coming. Just pop it to the WhatsApp group if things keep coming over the time, and then we'll. How would you like to go about it? Who would like to go first? मेरा काम तो हो गया, तुम्हारी बारी. Oh, 1 minute break, please. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please do. Take a 5 minute break. All I care. Discuss. Or we can just join back in 5 minutes. It's 8:10. We can join back at 8:15. You guys can decide who's presenting, what's the presentation. Just I've enabled sharing by anyone. So whichever team is going out, first start presenting. मेरा गाना Participants. Come on. Acha, so break done yet. Considering the amount of time we work with the forest, one would assume the stillness will come. I think it's just like work mode starts when you're doing a workshop. It's just different mode. Woohoo! Go Bangalore! Feel free to take over.
Hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, should we begin or wait for people to get back
I
from their
mean,
breaks?
we can start sharing the screen and start prepping up, just in case. And then we'll just take a call once, before you start, that if everybody is here.
Yes, cool.
How was your team's experience coming up with it?
Yeah, we work like a forest. We all brought in